Hey, Chief, I see we're streaming live on YouTube, which is good, but we have to just make sure we hit the record button
Okay.
as well.
As soon as we start. Yep. I can do that now. Yeah, it has been a little while since we've done this, right? At least for me. So
Because I think the last minutes that we had was May or June, May, right? Was our last meeting?
yeah, we did without a June, July meeting. Yes, sir.
Hi, everyone. This is the September meeting of the Kingston Police Commission. We're going to give folks one more minute to sign on, and then we'll get started. So just bear with us for a moment. All right, I'm going to get started with some of our monthly announcements to be able to do these remote meetings. So, hi, my name is Steve Noble, and I am the mayor of the city of Kingston and act as the chair of the Kingston Police Commission. This is the September 15th meeting, 2021 of the Police Commission. This meeting is being recorded and is also streaming live on the City of Kingston YouTube channel. The meeting and transcripts from this meeting will be made available on our city's webpage at kingston-ny.gov/Kingston Live, as well as on our city YouTube channel, as I mentioned before. We are joined this evening by our commission members, Shaniqua Bowden, Commissioner Brad Jordan, and Commissioner Don Mapes, and as well as our police chief, Tinty, and deputy chief, Mike Bonds. And so welcome, everyone. We have haven't had our last meeting was in May. And so I officially would like to call this meeting to order. Beginning at the beginning of the meeting, I'd like to just say hello to everybody. It's been a little while, and we're happy to be able to be back. I also would like to just start with approving the video transcripts from our May meeting. And so if I could have a motion to approve that, that would be great.
So move.
Thank you, Commissioner Jordan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowden. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, excellent. And so there are a couple of things that we wanted to be able to just go over tonight in regular session. And first, I wanted to just be able to see if there have been any communications, to either the commission or to the chief at this point.
I have not received any since our last meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Jordan. Chief, have you had any communications?
I think we spoke about it quickly this morning, Mayor, but we did receive an email from the Riggins family in regards to a dedication ceremony coming up in October to rename the building to the James K. Riggins Police Headquarters. And that's slated for October 23rd.
Great. Yeah, and we'll make sure to share that with the rest of the commissioners if you didn't get that email from the Riggins family. And so it's been something that we've been working on for the last couple of years when the Common Council announced that effort. So we're excited to be able to get that finalized at the building itself. And so thank you for mentioning that. Chief, I can also turn it over to you for just a update.
So in regards to the department, we're very pleased that the council approved the mayor's request for 3 additional officers. Currently, that leaves us with 7 vacancies that we have to fill, and we hope to quickly move to get them filled as soon as the background investigations are complete. I think there's over 12 or 13 candidates right now that we're looking at completing their background. So, but 7, we do have another department member who will be retiring in October, end of October. So we'll most likely at that point be asking the commission to review for 8 vacancies. And we'll see how quickly we can put that together. That most likely will be a special meeting scheduled just for the hiring.
Thank you, Chief. I do want to also mention that this past July, partnering with the Ulster County Sheriff's Office, the District Attorney's Office, members of law enforcement, specifically here with the Kingston Police Department, but we were also joined with other members of law enforcement. We launched a new initiative called AVERT, and this new anti-violence task force is designed to be able to make sure that we're bringing together all of our resources, both with our own individual police agencies, as well as, mental health services, DSS, the sheriff's office, to be able to, and the DA's office, to be able to interject ourselves into situations where we may know or have heard of or suspect that there are, men and women under the age of 24 that may be carrying illegal weapons or may have the intent to use an illegal weapon. And so that was launched this summer. That really helped to precipitate our request for 3 additional officers so that we could have more officers to be able to meet the kind of community policing programs that we have, both AVERT and some of our other initiatives that we've been able to roll out. Officers, walking posts, bike patrol, having more interactions at our community centers, being able to be out in the neighborhoods, being, relationship building, trust building phase of our police work. And so we think that with the additional hiring, it's going to help supplement those efforts and really create, that kind of true kind of community policing model that we have tried to do, but really haven't been able to fund in the appropriate ways to be able to have us be successful. And so I'm excited to be able to get that, going this fall and through next year, really, as we kind of hire up and get people trained and get all of this kind of moving along, in the community. And so that's just one update that I also wanted to share. I also wanted to just mention that there was a recent article in the local press about the Intimate Partner Violence Initiative that started with us here in Kingston, that our team worked really hard on the last couple of years. And I think the statistics were really remarkable. I think it showed that since implementing the program, we had a 36% reduction in intimate partner violence in Kingston. And so that program has now been rolled out to a couple of other communities, including, I think, most recently the town of Ulster. And so that I just want to thank you, Chief, and your whole team for supporting that program. I know that it was additional work for our officers to be able to do the follow-ups and the paperwork necessary to be able to have that program be successful, and to the DA's office and their whole team who have really, championed that program. I think it was good to also see some, positive press about, a very, difficult issue that, has really, impacted a lot of people here in Kingston and Ulster County. So, and so At this point, if there are any questions that commissioner members have about any of your reports or anything, we can pause for a moment.
Just as a quick update, I guess you'd call under unfinished business, but we are currently in the middle of, or just started rather, putting out the new TASER deployments. Everything was held off because of COVID last year, but Mike, if you want to just give them a quick update where we stand. I know we put Lieutenant Osterhout in charge of the deployment, but between himself and Officer Mike Mills as trainers, I think we're moving forward on a pretty good path with that.
Yeah, so we have enough as part of the package with the upgraded body cameras through the officer safety plan. We got enough tasers to replace all the current ones. The current inventory, most of the X26s, the older models, were manufactured in 2008, 2009, and have reached end of life. They're no longer supported by Axon or Taser, so we upgraded to these Taser 7s. Each member is going to have to spend a day training to transition from one tool to the other one. We started that this past Monday. We had our first group of trainees go through. What we're doing is we added a day basically to the in-service to get everybody through the Taser training. So the next couple Mondays, it's going to take about 6 weeks or so, but we should be able to transition everybody through, get the old ones back out of the mix, so to speak, and get the new ones issued out. The upgrades on the new ones, aside from some of the technological advances, but some of the things that are going to help us, from a safety standpoint, they don't have to take the cartridges out to either reload, or if they want to use it in direct contact mode, they're not trying to fumble with handling them at the same time. There's a feature to them that they sync with all the body cameras, so that any body camera that's within Bluetooth range, when that taser gets deployed, if somebody doesn't have their camera on, any surrounding body cameras will be turned on instantly with the deployment of the taser. So that's another kind of safeguard issue that was put in there. And for downloading, in the past, somebody would be involved in using a taser. It would be brought back. It would have to be turned into the supervisor. They'd be issued a new one until the old one could be downloaded and given a new cartridge and all this other stuff. With the new ones, essentially, when the officer returns, the taser stays right in their holster. They take the battery pack out, drop it into the charging station, take a new battery pack, and they're on their way. And all of the data that we need will download instantly into the charging station and automatically link itself to the body camera footage from that incident. So it's going to save us a tremendous amount of time on the backside and on the reporting piece. So we're excited to get them out. I anticipate by certainly the middle to end of October, we should have all the old ones out and all the new ones issued and up and running finally.
Thank you. At this point, I don't have a lot of other unfinished business. I think something that came up that was a new business for us to discuss, and it came up, I think, a month ago at the Common Council. The chief and I went before the Common Council related to the purchase of the rescue vehicle, the armored rescue vehicle. And so since the Common Council did approve us using the grant funds that we had received in partnership with the town of Ulster, we wanted to be able to make sure that our policy was also up to date. And so would you guys like to just review that policy for us so that we can understand kind of some of the key points? I know it was sent out to commission members, but for the public's sake, I think it'd be good to just kind of go over the highlights.
Deb, if you want to cover that, I know you put that together quick. Also, maybe an update on the Lexapol. I know that was of interest last time, and it wasn't on the agenda, but I think it's a good opportunity to talk about the daily training bulletins that we've put out there.
Yeah, I was just actually going to grab a copy of the policy. I don't have it in front of me at the second, but yeah, essentially some of the highlights of it are going to be that first and foremost, the rescue vehicle will only go out when it's deployed on an emergency services unit operation. So it is specific to just use by the team. In addition to that, anybody that's going to operate it's going to need to be trained on it. For it to go out for deployment, either myself or the chief, or in the case of the town of Ulster, Chief Berardi would have to approve its use, so that this thing will only be used in a police response or any type of emergency response when it's already got approval from the command staff of either us or the town of Ulster. In addition to that, we put in some other precautions and some other policy statements. It's not to be used for crowd control. It's not to be used for life-saving emergency rescues, essentially. And that's the long and short of it. Well, I believe everybody did get a copy via email, but that was the key points that we wanted to make sure we had in the policy for the armored rescue vehicle. We've also worked with Ulster, just as an update on that. They had their approvals. We've taken care of everything we needed to do procedurally for like the purchasing and making sure that it meets procurement through GSA and all the necessary things. So everything is progressing as it should be on that front. With Lexipol, we are fully up and running with Lexipol. What we've since July 1st, all of the policies took effect. So that was since our last meeting. All of the members have had to log in, read them, sign off on the policies throughout the month of August. And September now, we have out daily training bulletins. So the officers get an email. They have about 15 to 20 policies and fact patterns that they have to review and answer questions on, and all that becomes cataloged, and we can monitor who's staying up to date on the training bulletins. We actually have had 2 policy updates even since the new thing came out, just some language with regard to either statutes or language changes. And the system works like it's supposed to be. As soon as we got the new policy amended or the new policy put into effect, all the membership got an email saying, hey, there's a new policy you have to review. When you open it up, it's right there on the forefront, and working pretty seamlessly so far. So we're pretty happy where we are with Lexipol at this point.
Great. And so I think at this point, does any of the commission members have any questions about the armored rescue and recovery vehicle policy?
The only thing I had, where is it going to be located?
Physically, right? Where the vehicle is going to be located?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where is the location going to be?
We're a few months out right now on its delivery. I know that once we cut the purchase order, we kind of get into a queue for the refurb models. But the idea is to put it out in the town of Ulster. They're trying to find a place for it that'll remain in a covered space, so it can be plugged in. Obviously, there'll be radios and stuff in it. So we want to make sure that it has its proper location on that. But again, we're currently working out some of the policy development on their end of it as far as the deployment. We share the team, we share accreditation standards. It should be absolutely seamless on both sides. And as you're well aware, their administration and ours works well together. So it should be no.
Okay, no problem.
Chief, just to be clear though, so we're going to have a policy for its use in the city of Kingston. They're going to have their own policy for its use in the town of Ulster, correct?
I believe Ulster's going to, have something in their draft policy, but essentially both policies are going to state that the vehicle is only going to be used as attached to the emergency services unit, which is a joint team. So I am certain that their policy is going to mirror ours. I don't want to put language on the paper for them, but basically if that vehicle is getting deployed, it's going to be attached to the ESU team, and it's still going to be subject to all of the emergency services unit standards and policies, because we have a whole set of policies just for ESU to meet the state accreditation, and they have to abide by the same policies. And if our membership is there, it is just one set of policies. It doesn't change when they cross over the line.
Thank you.
And so does anyone have any other questions or comments on that?
Question I have is whether or not the language is a little vague or basic. It just, on one hand, the life-saving, clause sounds great, especially when you a minute ago compared that to crowd control. At the same time, how do we know that, crowd control is not going to get to a point where it becomes life or death, to control a crowd and so on. So with that, it sounds like a little bit, I don't know, that it just needs to be a little more specific.
I think at any point, the vehicle is designed to save lives. I mean, there's no armored there is no offensive capability to it. It's not designed that way. So as far as the deployment, we are limiting it. I know there's been some concerns by the public about routine patrol. That's absolutely, we've had one parked back here in our headquarters for 10 years. No one's ever said anything about it. We just don't do it that way. But I understand when in my discussions with some of the council members, their concern is, okay, well, what happens if there's a different chief, a different administration? How can we safeguard its use? And again, I'd like to believe that the policy is pretty solid. I mean, if we have to roll this thing to save a life, then we're going to roll this thing to save a life. I think we're very specific, and I think the intent is there to make sure that we don't deploy it during protests, during any type of crowd control mechanism. We have no intention, nor have we ever had any intention of using any of our equipment for that purpose.
All right, just to be more clear about what I said, I think what I'm saying is I wouldn't want us to encounter a point in which we believe that crowd control is life-threatening, and therefore this vehicle would need to be deployed, or something like that is put into the reports. And so how involved is the Common Council, and do we have to wait on them to approve any of the language?
No, we approve the policies. So yeah, so as soon as the Common Council approved the funding, it's on us to approve any policies related to the actual use. And I think that if in an event, there was lives at risk because of a protest that went violent, for instance, right? Then I think that this policy would then allow us to, help save, anyone that was stuck in the middle of a shootout that was happening at any type of event. But that the goal of this is to not do what maybe Dutchess County or Poughkeepsie did when they rolled one of these, types of pieces of equipment for just, what was a nonviolent protest, right? And so I think that that's really the difference for us, is that we're not going to, as part of our standard operating procedure, if there is an event like the Hooli where we have 10,000 people, this doesn't get brought down to the Hooli just because there is the risk of an event happening because there's 10,000 people here. It would only be brought to the Hooli if there was a shootout and there are people trapped in a building and that we need to rescue, at the Hooli. We would then bring the vehicle to the Hooli, if that makes sense. I think that that's kind of what we're trying to get at with like the life-saving part of this, is that, we wanted to call out some of the occasions that we normally are not, people's lives are not at risk at, to say that it wouldn't be at those kind of more routine events, but we gave ourselves the flexibility that at any event, if there becomes a life at risk, we could then use the vehicle and still be within our policy and procedure. So I think that, I don't know if that helps answer your question, but we did try to build some flexibility, but not have it be too vague at the same time, because we wanted to just be really clear with the community that it's not going to be used for routine purposes. You're not going to see it in parades. You're not going to see it out on the street, just driving to work. And that it's only going to be used when there is, the kind of the worst case scenario that our departments plan for, but hope to never have to, to do in the future. And I think one of the things we also have indicated with these policies is that, we also have the opportunity to amend them at any time, as, we go with having this vehicle for a year, we may realize that, we need to fine tune something, or we need to make amendments to something in the future. But I think it's important, if we have, the support of the commission today, to put this in, even though we don't have the vehicle yet. I think if we can approve this policy, I think it'll at least give us a really good, strong baseline policy to have, going forward with this vehicle. And, we'll also give the town of Ulster something to work off of, as they hopefully will mirror our policy, right?
Chief, is there ever a time that either yourself or the deputy chief could potentially not be reachable? Because it is a little restrictive in that it's going back to the examples the mayor just gave. the only way this vehicle, it states in this policy, the only way this vehicle ever is approved for use beyond all those other parameters is also authorized by yourself or Deputy Chief Ponce. And you'd hate to see a situation where you really needed to use it, and God forbid you couldn't get hold of yourself or the deputy chief.
Yeah,
Just a question whether you want a little more flexibility there, that the officer in charge or the mayor or somebody,
I think if we also couple, you know, the other chief being in there, but
he's not in ours, right?
I would venture to say that between the chief and I, it's going to be extremely unlikely that one of us can't be reached.
Okay, as long as you guys are comfortable with it, I just want to
Yeah.
make sure we don't limit ourselves too much to
Yeah.
when you do need it.
I think too, an important point, and I think this came up when we were talking about Lexipol and the policies versus procedure versus training, right? So that in general, policies tend to be more broad brush, and then we can really hammer down some of the nuanced details a little bit more when we get into procedure. And typically, you know, policy is something that, hey, we're not going to do these things, or we're going to use it for this. And then, you know, when we nail down procedure a little tighter, then we'll have the nuanced, you know, list of type of calls, or list of type of calls that permitted for or not permitted for, you know, generally those things that you may not be for public consumption, but, you know, but the policy, right? Like, you know, to say that, I think the last time I used the bank alarm, you know, we have a policy that says we will respond to all bank alarms. And, you know, but the procedure may be more specific to say, when we call the bank, this is the code word we're looking for to disregard, or when we send officers, they're going to go to the number 1 side and the number 4 side, whatever those nuanced things may be more of a procedural issue than a policy issue.
Okay.
So are you looking for a motion to?
I would. Yes, that would be great if we could have a motion to adopt this policy.
So moved.
Do I have a second? All right, second from Don. Commissioner Mapes, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? All right. Thank you all very much for that. And I think that was all we had on our new business for today. The other items that we have today are to review use of force. We had a total of 3 uses of force since May that we had to review. And then we received 1 complaint, which we can discuss as well in executive session. And so I'd like to ask for a motion to enter into executive session to review those use of force and the 1 complaint. Do I have a motion for that?
Yes, that motion.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Mapes. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Jordan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So at this point, we're going to go over to the other link that we sent out for executive session, and then we'll be back. Thank you, everybody.